Hey folks, it's Max. So, this time around, keeping with our theme of anime, I took a suggestion from my little brother to do one of Mob Psycho 100 to have just a nice, comfy, cozy scene of Mob doing some chores. Decided to have him cooking dinner while his brother Ritsu helps out with dishes. And you're probably thinking, what's this funky sphere here? So, this is something that I love to talk about to blow people's minds. Most people know, a lot of us are familiar with one point perspective. It's a really good, like, elementary school art project to make a drawing of like a train or a building that goes way, way, way off into the distance, and it's very cool. Now, if you stick with it, you end up learning about 2 point perspective, um, and then if you're uh, really loving that type of thing, you end up with 3 point, 4 point, and even 5 point perspective. So this is what I was attempting to do here is some 5 point perspective work to fill up this sort of like chaotic kitchen scene. And I did not like my layout. I thought that it was boring, not dynamic. So I try again. This time having the room on a very different angle, and um, I thought that the layout of the room was a lot better. As we will see, it becomes a little trickier to fill out the space. Just figuring out where stuff should be. I wanted Mob to be levitating ingredients with his psychic powers, right? Um, so I sketch it all out, and then I actually used a vector layer, which Clip Studio is very nice with vector layers to rather than trying to hand draw everything and get it perfect and erasing and redrawing and erasing and redrawing. I eventually decided to use vector layers, which are adjustable, so you can draw a line and then uh, move it around, scooch it, use the Bezier handles to change the curve. And before anyone comes at me for cheating, cheater alert, cheater alert, no, it's called working smarter, not harder, because hey man, if you're buying your paint in a tube, that's cheating. Real artists grind up their own paint, you know. It's the levels of artistic purity no bounds. So go through a couple sketch drafts. There's my vector lines, and you see how fast that goes. Like they really just plop in there, and they look a lot nicer than if I had done it by hand. And this green blob flying around, that is my line width adjustment, so that I'm able to change the line weight rather than redrawing it. I can just edit the line to make it skinnier, thicker, wherever I want to get a little finer control over the lines in the back of the room being thinner, the lines closer towards us being a little bit thicker, just to help push the perspective a little bit more. And another thing that is super handy about vector, just vectors, is that they are infinitely scalable. They do not lose resolution because it's not a pattern of pixels, it's a path. And that means that, you saw my room was really tiny, so I could just blow it up to fill the space better. And I spent so long drawing Ritsu. So funny. Mob came out like so easy, and then Ritsu, I'm just like struggling so much. Something about the sleeve of his shirt. Okay, so now I'm just doing some set dressing, which it is something I really admire in other people's artwork when they have these really lush, elaborate rooms just filled with stuff. So I fill a bookshelf, I put in some bottles, some cans and jars, fill up the fridge. I think the biggest thing for set dressing like this is to establish, I suppose, like plan things out a lot more carefully. By which I mean there is a lot of just sort of unengaged space in terms of like depth. I think if I were to do this again, I would have a tighter focus and plan out my sort of like negative space, my areas of rest a bit better. But it is a lot of fun to draw all of these little doodads, all the little veggies flying through the air, radishes and broccoli and carrots and onions and tomatoes is very fun. Because when there's a lot of stuff, you don't have to render out all the little details so long as someone can figure out what it is. Oh, I tried to draw a carton of eggs and I gave up so fast. I just decided to draw individual eggs because those are way easier to draw floating through the air in perspective. They're just eggs. Platting in some colors really fast. I think this looks pretty cozy, pretty warm. So as I was doing this, I did at one point look through some episodes of Mob Psycho just to see, like, do they show the kitchen? I should have looked for that beforehand because their kitchen looks nothing like this kitchen. But, spoilers, stuff happens, they move. Maybe this is the kitchen in their new place. I went back and cleaned up some of the line work on Mob because I drew him in raster and then scaled him instead of using vectors, which I prefer using raster when I'm drawing people. I think vector is great for complicated perspective stuff, but it was just like looking a little fuzzy, so I redrew it and then adjusted the color because I changed a bit of the shape on like the hair just to get it a little bit more appealing. Little adjustments here and there. And I've got a multiply layer for my light, and it's like really warm pink light. Something that I really love about Mob Psycho and is that Studio Bones? That's Studio Bones, right? Their colors are so bonkers. Like Space Dandy. Oh my gosh. If you want to talk about colors, man, Space Dandy, like, mwah, beautiful. Jazzing up the background a little bit more, and I decided, I've got all this empty space. I'm gonna fill it with some guys. We need some guys. Yeah, they were fun to plop in here. There's some real nasty dudes in Mob Psycho, so because they're dealing with all this crazy stuff, but they don't really care. Just making the scene a little bit more dynamic. There were sort of like two approaches to addressing the space issue in my mind, and that was like the tiny details and then the larger compositional stuff. So this is a bit more like solving the larger compositional shapes, which I feel a lot stronger with, rather than all of the like tiny little stuff. And then just a little bit of shading, and I do a little bit more at the end, right about here. There it is. Pops in there. No one notices. All right, that's going to do it for this time. Thanks so much. If you have something that you would like to see me draw, leave a suggestion. I'd love to hear it. See you next time. Bye.